Painting birds is one of my favourite things, and I did a poll and the hummingbird won. Sorry, macaw and flamingo, your time will come. So when I'm drawing a bird, I really try and get the proportions right, because often you can assume that the wings are much bigger than they are, or the body is not that small, and so it's useful to kind of make yourself a grid. So I normally measure just simple height and width, create a box, and then you can scale it up or do it the same size onto whatever surface you're using. So I'm using a painting panel here, and it's got a fine linen surface, and it's just made of MDF. So as you can see, I do measure a lot as I'm going along, and I use my pencil as like a measuring tool. So I would compare say the width of the head with the width of the wing and that sort of thing. What's really important when you're drawing is to stand up and have a look at it from further away, because when you're like face down and you're really up close to it, it's quite hard to see whether you've got things right or wrong. So you can see, like with the camera angle, it's very helpful for me. So I've chosen a selection of gorgeous colours from my huge array of acrylic paints. Obviously white is vital, but I'm just going to start with all the shades of blue, I think, to start with. Maybe a couple of shades of purple as well. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to map out all the areas of colour, and we're just going to block them out with our first layer of acrylics. They don't have to be, they're not going to look perfect, it's going to look quite rough actually, but I think it's really important psychologically. I just like to have all the colours down, something that I can build onto. So different brushes are going to assist you in different ways, and I am a little bit obsessed with a rigger brush, which has a long thin brush head, and it's great for doing straight lines. So once I finish that, then I can go on to a more chunkier brush to lay down these blocks of colour. And as I'm going, I'm literally just pushing together different shades of blue quite roughly. I'm not using very much water because I want the not watercolour, acrylic to be as opaque as possible, so we can start to build. I treat it a little bit like a very advanced colour by numbers when I block out my colour areas, and you can actually see how satisfying it is when you start to see these blocked colour areas start to emerge. The eye is so important, and further along the video there's a very long extended clip of me painting the eye, because any animal or bird painting, the eye is absolutely crucial. I'm actually going to be creating a longer extended video of how to paint this bird, because I know lots of people are keen on painting birds. Equally, if you're feeling quite unsure about your acrylic painting, then I've got an online course which is literally going to take you from zero to hero. Tell you what to buy, how to set up your palette, lots of brush techniques which I'm using here you can practice with me on this course, and then you'll be ready to take part in lots of other more adventurous projects. Exciting! So you can see how much progress we've made, because the bird is fully covered and he is ready for shading and depth and texture, and we're really going to employ lots of different techniques to bring this little guy to life. Look at the extraordinary difference here with the second coat. So the underneath looks very rough and patchy, and then the second coat is already just looking very opaque. I'm able to blend and mix the colours together whilst it's wet, and it's just magic. I love acrylics, the layering properties that you can use with this paint. The only downside is, of course, the paint does dry very quickly. So even when I was painting this hummingbird, the paint was drying out on my palette because it's a hot day. Look how well you can paint a paler colour over a dark colour. So I'm putting this vibrant aqua colour onto the purple paint. So once it's dry, I'm able to use a thick layer of the second colour, and literally it's very heavy duty. You can paint right over it and start to build up the texture. And on the head, because it has so much texture and life, and obviously this is still early days, but what I'm doing is kind of using like a little round scrubbing action with my paintbrush, and I can sort of scrunch the colours together. So now we are very much in our happy place, because now we get to really put all the finishing touches and fine details. This third coat still takes a long time, and what you do is you move on to smaller and smaller brushes, and use lots of different brushes because you want to get different texture and effects on different parts of the bird. So it's really, as I mentioned earlier, important to try and get the eye right, and I'm going to spend a lot of time kind of checking the shape, because for a while I thought I didn't know if I had the shape correct. So I'm going to slightly adjust it, and I'm going to paint a nice edge to the eye, and then I'm going to soften that back so it becomes a lot more subtle. To make an incredibly fine line around the eye, I'm using a really tiny rigger brush, and what you need to do with a rigger is have your paint quite wet, almost like it's an ink, and just use the very tip of the brush. Don't worry if you go wrong, because you can paint the black eye back in again. And of course the highlight really changes everything. I mean, look at that. That is so satisfying. So when we see the painting from this distance in this angle, it's just kind of crazy how much difference the third layer makes, doesn't it? I mean, that's just really fun to watch. I hope you're enjoying it too. With acrylic paints, there are many different mediums that you can use, and here I'm taking a gloss medium, and I'm just dipping my tiny brush into it, and I'm going to apply like a layer of varnish over the eye, because I want to make it as shiny as possible. Next, I'm going to take an iridescent medium, and I'm just going to pour some onto my palette, and I can add it into any of my colours, and it will give a gorgeous shimmer, because obviously an iridescent feathers on a hummingbird would be pretty magical. And then I also have all these pots of gorgeous shades of gold paint, and let's use a little blob of that as well, because we can mix it into the greens and it will just give them an added shimmer and glow and warmth. When it comes to this top coat, it's quite good to just experiment with different brushes and different paint applications. So as you can see, I'm slightly sort of dabbing with my brush, and I'm using dry paint, and I'm just kind of stippling it, which is where you use the top of the brush and you just dab, 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 and you can really start to get a really nice effect of texture of feathers, because the last thing we want is a flat looking hummingbird. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you might have picked up that I am a bit of a perfectionist, verging on OCD. But honestly, I think when you're painting a bird, I don't think you can ever add too much, because every teeny weeny little brush stroke just creates more magic and texture and solidity to the bird. But you know, when I'm teaching in real life and admiring other artists, I really admire people who can paint with a more loose style, and so if that's your style, just really lean into it and go for it. I just happen to be someone who is this way inclined. You do you, okay? So at this stage, what we're going to do is we're going to apply the size, which is the specialist glue, to the surface, whether you've used paper, canvas, a panel, and we're just going to glue it on, and you can use a small brush to go around the edge of your bird. What's going to be really satisfying is it's going to cover up all of those messy edges. And then if you just use a flat brush to cover up the larger areas, and then if you turn it to the light, you'll be able to see if you've missed any spaces. So we've got our imitation gold leaf, and I've got a little pile of it next to me. And I like to use these tweezers to pick up each sheet with the tissue backing, and we're just going to place each one down. You don't need to wear a glove, it's just I received some gloves with an order of real gold, and I actually really like using it because I can use my brush and a finger to tap down any areas. Unfortunately, I've got the, what should we call it? Tripod balanced on a box on my table, so I keep shaking it. So sorry about the shaky footage. So we're almost going to tile the area, and we're just going to slightly overlap each sheet with the next. And as we go along, we just give a little press down with this soft brush. And this is such a lovely soft brush that I can actually use it straight onto the gold leaf. So we're just going to cover the whole thing. We're going to go right over the top of the bird, and at the end we're going to have the most amazing reveal. Before I brush away the canvas, I just like to give it one last sort of press, and I use kitchen paper and I just go sheet by sheet and just kind of press it down. And then you can tear away any larger areas, and then you can reuse that gold leaf. You can keep it all. And then those pieces actually can come in quite handy at times. So we're going to start by tearing away any larger pieces from the bird's body, and you can gently just pull it away. Don't rip it, don't yank it. The glue is extremely strong, but you know, treat it with respect. And then what we can do is just going to be utter magic. We're going to just brush away the gold leaf, and all those crisp edges of the bird will be revealed. And then you can go along the seams of each sheet of gold leaf and brush the lines, and all the excess will just be in a lovely little pile of skewings. If you've watched my channel before, you know that I often will cover an entire canvas with gold leaf, and then I paint my design on top of the gold leaf. This is obviously a different technique where we are inlaying the gold leaf around the design. And if we discuss the pros and cons, I mean, basically you're able to draw as if you were drawing on paper, which you can't do on a gold leaf surface, so that can be quite nerve-wracking. So you know, we've gone through the whole drawing process and we've drawn lines and we've made a mess underneath, and you just can't do that when you're painting directly onto gold leaf. So I think you can get this beautiful quality where the subject is revealed and it's quite special the way it's inlaid into the gold. Now that I want to get all the gold leaf away from the beak, I'm going to move on to using a small brush, which is quite stiff, and I'm almost going to scrub that gold away. You can be quite vigorous at this stage because you really want to get those crisp edges of the gold leaf. And what's really going to be important here is that you've left the size to go tacky enough. If you try and use it when it's too wet, you won't be able to get secure edges and it might smudge. So the hummingbird is revealed, and doesn't he look gorgeous with this gold surround? And isn't it so satisfying to have all of the, you know, pencil marks and paint marks all covered up by the beautiful gold leaf? I really hope you've enjoyed watching. I'm going to actually break this video down into a series where there's a full explanation of drawing, painting and inlaying the gold leaf. If you want to find out lots more about using gold leaf, please subscribe to my channel, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next video.